Howdy y'all, I hope you guys are all doing well, I hope you guys are safe, and I hope you guys are healthy. So, just as a brief introduction to myself, my name is Josh and I absolutely love talking about clothes, whether that be on the high end of things to the low end of things or anywhere in between. I simply love talking about clothes as well as bringing up discussions from a consumer standpoint. Now, with all that out of the way, today is going to be a video where I talk about something very similar to my last video, but I guess not similar, but it was inspired by my last video, the controversy video, basically talking about the problem with overly associating your name with a brand, and that encompasses like starting a brand under your name as well as endorsements and sponsorships. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go. Alright, some brands that I wanted to bring up that kind of are faced with this kind of issue is obviously the video that I did just prior to this one about Vujade and Kenejima. Kenejima, from what I know, started as a YouTuber. He definitely puts out content just to entertain, and along the lines, along his journey, he definitely put a lot of stuff in his videos in reference to him starting a brand, which is where I think a good chunk of his audience then kind of like are primarily his buyers as well. So Kenejima's name, despite not being simply the only one who runs Vujade, his name is pretty like the most heavily associated with the brand itself. Now, another one that's a pretty good example of this is Paul from Locust and Wild Honey, who is, I think, the primary brand ambassador for Minimal, and obviously Minimal, I've done a video about it, has run into their own problems, especially with the law right now, which is really interesting to see. But another name that is so heavily associated with a brand, but not necessarily a good thing. So over-attachment of like a name to a brand leads to a bonding of reputations, which can be beneficial or detrimental to both parties. And it really is a case-by-case basis. It depends on who we're talking about and what situations and actions have been taken. But this includes like starting your own brand as well as being sponsored or endorsed by a brand. The primary benefit to both the brand and the individual is that they're both exposed to their separate audiences, therefore more accurately hitting a target niche that they really want. And exposure, especially for a small brand that's just starting up, is probably one of the most important things to really take into consideration, because I mean, it's one thing to have a product, make a product, and make it well, but if you don't get it to the right people, the people who actually want to spend money and buy your product to wear or whatever product it may be, your product can really only get you so far, and proper exposure is really one of the best things that you can do in situations like this. And using sponsorships or attaching your name to your brand is an extremely fast way to grow and use the separate followings of those two entities and bring them together via a certain product, brand, type of clothing, whatever it may be. So yeah, obviously brands that are small want to kind of like grow at a hopefully as fast as possible rate, but sometimes they're not doing it via their own product. A lot of times it is just like sending a YouTuber free clothes so that they can wear it so their audience gets exposed to it, or something of the sort. So this method of advertising comes with quite a bit of a risk, I would say, on both parts, because both are two separate entities that act on their own accord. They act and do things separate and unique from each other, which I think is a problem for a brand, because that then any unethical or immoral actions that are taken by either side of the relationship directly affects the other in reputation, and both can be very easily dragged down if something wrong is done, which is unfortunate. But on the flip side of things, brands that are based in like anonymity, a lot of brands that just really are mysterious in a way, it's appealing to some people, and those brands seem to be more genuinely grown based on their products. And I think that's also really good. However, the problem with that is that it's a much slower build unless you garner some sort of hype on your own. And some examples of more like anonymous brands that kind of came up, I think the first one that comes to mind is Antisocial Social Club. Definitely one that's like most people don't really know about the designer behind it, and I mean, based on his own actions, I think it's a good thing that he didn't really make himself known or herself known all that well, just because of how poor the customer service and handling of Antisocial Social Club is. I mean, with any sort of company growth, brand growth, or anything, any growth related to anything, there will always be goods and bads about any sort of way you go about it, unfortunately. But it really is just a matter of knowing your risk and managing the risks well. And that's why I'm making this video. This is why I want people to, this is what I want people to know, and this is what I really, really, really want people to kind of to understand, is that a lot of these endorsements, sponsorships, all these other things really have a purpose behind them, and the primary purpose truly is to kind of get their exposure out there. And if any two entities can benefit mutually from having a relationship with one another, they will. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Cool. So, I mean, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate this so much. I appreciate every single person watching. If you have any thoughts, if you have any comments, put them in the comments down below. Consider subscribing if you don't mind. And until the next video, I'll catch you guys later.